All right, everybody, welcome to The Link. It is a Monday. It is a Conference Championship Monday, but you know, a lot of NFL teams are named after birds, Chris, and that very apropos.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, that's sure. I mean, I don't know if we've got any NFL teams, called the Kakaks or anything like that, but there's no shortage of bird teams in the NFL. None of them made it this far in the playoffs, OJ.
Well, at the collegiate football level, there are several teams named after fighting chickens.
Yeah, that's
South
right.
Carolina, of course, has the Gamecocks, and there are a couple other teams like that.
Might be a little hot right now to name any of our teams after fighting chickens, though.
There you go. But, we actually told you, everybody, at the beginning of the show that we'd be talking to our dear friend Arlene Steffi and another friend of the show, Olympia Terrell, are joining us now in the KOM News Zoom room, and we are talking about bird watching. Generated a huge response. Elizabeth Agigi, who lives in Eva Beach, Hawaii, ladies, was saying she actually does bird watching out in the Aloha State, too. So we'll get into the whole mechanics of the event and everything like that. But, Hafaday and good morning to you both. And I want to say that's either one of the coolest video virtual backgrounds I've ever seen, or you're actually joining us like from the marsh.
Actually, let me show you what exactly it is.
That is lovely.
Okay, so what that is I'm standing on the porch of our property at Aching Bay Marina, and that is the Aching Bay Marina Cove with a channel that goes out into the Moleso Bay. And we've been doing some restorative work down there for our renters. And while I was working one day, I thought, you know what? That would be a great background for Zoom. And there I am.
Well, you took me back because I grew up a little bit on Kennedy Road in Moleso. That's right across the street from, and it just reminds me there used to be like an Achang Bay Red Rice little restaurant, right? And that, so I was actually a kid when this place, people would go there and do activities that property at. Awesome.
Very nice. Yeah, Kennedy Road ends across the street from the property.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know you lived down there. Good for you.
Yeah, and then I know that there's a lot of turtles around that area, right?
I've never seen turtles, but it's a preserve.
Yeah.
And so everything, the fish tend to come in, the young fish come in there into the bay or into the cove, but it's just a beautiful place. You should see the sunsets down there. Yeah. The sunrise down there looks like sunsets in the west. It's incredible.
How's the birding action down there, though, Ar?
There is a colony or a group of collared doves, and the herons come around, but I haven't seen much else.
I'm pretty sure there might be a chicken or two.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of chickens.
You could probably count on that, and equally delightful is not a virtual background, but a very, very lovely Olympia. I want to say like a home studio or just a workspace. That's a nice shade of teal behind you, and I'm looking. There's some nice pieces of art on the wall, and that nice window overlay. And is that a crossword puzzle book off your left shoulder?
No. Well, this is my office at UOG, and I'm so lucky to have this office. And I'm surrounded by birds. Bird poster over here, which is for the event. And that is not a crossword puzzle. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, like right on the thing. It looked like possibly. My eyesight is so bad these days.
It is a book about turtles.
Okay. Oh, so we do have a turtle sighting on the show. Very good. So Chris was right.
Yes, that we helped do. We translated it into tomorrow. I didn't do that, but I had that done, and it was NOAA they had them here when one of our charter days, and I went, oh my God, this book is so cool, and I think it was in Samoan. And I went, we need this in tomorrow. And so made that happen, and that was really fun to do.
Okay, well, the art and the craft and the passion of bird watching and everything like that. Some people may have said, we were talking about it earlier in the show, it used to be a really, really thriving event and activity to do like in the States and locally, like in the 70s and 80s. But for some people, like Arlene, it never actually stopped. And this is something that you have done, you have advocated for, you have shared your passion with this, and now with this event, you're actually educating a lot of people of why this is a wonderful thing to get into. And Guam is the perfect environment for this, right?
Actually, we're very fortunate because we're on that Flyway. There are 4 flyways that start from the Arctic tundra, where all the birds, or many of the birds, go to breed. And so when they winter, they come down from that Arctic tundra, and there are 4 flyways that come in from North America all the way down to Australia. So we are on that Pacific flyway, Pacific coast, and some birds will pass through, well, some birds will stop through, and whether you're in the Pacific or the Central or the Mississippi or the Antarctic, or no, what is it? Atlantic, rather, you could see these birds fly through. Unfortunately, with us, the dispersal is not as numerous as they are over the mainland. So we don't see these large flocks of birds. However, around May sometime, you will see the shearwaters, like about a mile outside of Jeff Pirates Cove along the coast there in the Pacific Ocean as they go back. And that's something that I am aiming to cover this coming May.
Now, what I know a lot of people see bird watching as a recreational activity. Some people use it as a means by which they can help, like the government, maybe the Department of Agriculture, and just say, hey, I spotted a couple species that I haven't seen before. Here's my log file. Here's a couple illustrations I may have done. If it helps you at all, here you go. But Olympia, what purpose does bird watching serve, like on Guam? I know it's incredibly relaxing and therapeutic, but if for people that want to get into it or may have never tried it, this is a very worthwhile activity. And how can they use this for good in our community?
Well, what bird watching does is get you out in nature.
Yep.
And then once you're out in nature, your whole brain changes. You're not on your computer, you're not on your phone, you're not in a store, you're out in nature, of which we are a part of. And so it's so important to have a reason to be out there. And bird watching is one of them. Hiking is another. And I know living on Guam, I've lived on Guam for over 30 years. I really miss the birds. And when I woke up one morning in September and went, we need to have a migratory bird celebration here because people can see birds. And I'm really sad for the young generations on Guam that have grown up without having birds around them. That they might not, and that's why we're having a migratory bird celebration on Guam and not, birds on Guam, because we thought people might not come if they're going to say, there's no birds on Guam.
Okay,
we know there's no birds.
So what makes the migratory bird celebration so distinct from maybe some people who maybe people like myself and maybe naively think, okay, it's a bird watching event, that's pretty cool. I can sit down, and I can jot down some notes and everything. What about the migratory essence of this makes it so distinct?
Well, I just find migratory birds amazing because they fly such distances, and birds are so tiny and fragile. They look so tiny and fragile, which they are, but they can withstand this incredible migration of thousands of miles. And they do island hop down. As Arlene said, we're on the Pacific Flyway, the Asian Pacific Flyway. And then there are other flyways that go closer towards India, right? And so they come down through Hokkaido, through Japan, maybe Taiwan, and then they end up in Guam. And what's interesting, what I've learned from Martin Kastner, who is a member of the Marianas Audubon Society, is that when they come, like the plovers, for example, when they come to Guam, they'll go right to, if they were coming to your yard last year, they'll go to your yard again this year. Because even though they're flying all that distance, they seem to hone into that area. So Jeff's, we call it Just Plover's Cove for the event. So those birds are probably coming every year back to Jeff's. So it's just fascinating.
That is
and
amazing.
I also,
Because
I love,
yeah, I'm sorry, Olympia. So just to put it into perspective for everybody watching right now, if you took a commercial airline flight from Japan, that's a 3.5-hour flight on a 747, a device that was engineered for speed. And you're talking about birds making that trip, and they're doing this basically transcontinentally. I mean, there's no branch or twig that they can like kind of take a break on and relax when you're out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and everything like that. They make that trip themselves. That is phenomenal.
Well,
It is.
they do stop along the way. And the reason that those flyways exist is that, like us, unless it's a direct flight, and some do make those direct flights, others will stop along the way and feed, and then others die. It is a very dangerous trek for
Sure.
many of them. We lose a lot of birds during the migration. It's very arduous for them.
Which makes the sighting of specific species of birds, I would assume, ladies, all that more valuable. If you see it, it's like these are the ones who survived the trip, and now they've
Yeah.
come to Guam, and at least maybe even temporarily made Guam their home, right? Like I guess there is a point to be made. When they come to Guam, do they stay here, or is this kind of like a refueling stop, for lack of a better term?
They winter here.
Okay. Oh, so it is a pure migratory pattern. Like they come here and then they recharge and then they may go back, or they go somewhere else.
Now, once in a while, and this is where, okay, I'd like to make a distinction too, because you say bird watcher. I am not a bird watcher.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how Olympia defines herself, but she has a very different approach to being around the birds too, and she is a hiker. I'm not a hiker. The only thing that will drag me up into the hills is if there's a rare bird up there that someone has sighted, and I have the possibility of photographing that bird. Otherwise, not interested in hiking to the falls or anything like that. So there's a distinction between that, and a birder and a bird watcher are not the same thing. They have a very common and purpose, and they are synonymous in some people. And some people don't consider themselves bird watchers, but birders, or maybe both, a little bit of both. I don't sit on my patio or at Ocheng Bay or anywhere watching birds. I won't do that. I will, though, carry my camera and go somewhere
Gotcha.
to photograph a bird.
Well,
And
that's
makes
good to
it
know. And may I ask, because Olympia, you made a very, very good point that this young generation, maybe like millennials and Gen Zers, as they're called, they spend so much time on screens, and attention spans are demonstrably short these days and everything like that. But if they want to get into this wonderful activity and maybe kind of like bring like the online environment and what they know and everything, how can they kind of maybe incorporate digital technology and the social media component to say like, hey, this is a wonderful activity, I've met new people, and then I'm also like sharing it, for the world?
Well, there is an app called eBird that you can download on your phone,
Makes
and
perfect
then
sense.
if you see a bird, or if you can photograph a bird maybe you've never seen before, you can put it on eBird, and people can ID it for you, or you can just go through and look like you're going to be going to, let's say you're going to go to Saipan, which they still have birds, lots of birds there. That's a great place to go, and you can go to eBird and you can look at what you would probably be seeing there, so you can prepare yourself before you get there. So when you see a bird, you know, oh, that's a flycatcher, or oh, that's a chichirica, or yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that's important. There are many other apps that you can use. Merlin is one of them. Merlin is actually associated with eBird, but those would be the birds that are specific to a region. So you would pick, because you're not going to see the American bald eagle here. So you would download a bunch of photographs of birds that are known to be in a region. Now, once in a while, you'll get a vagrant, someone who's been thrown off course, maybe caught up in a typhoon or something, or for some reason his natural instinct was derailed along the way. We don't know what causes it really, but they get thrown off course, and then they'll show up, which is not common. Now, in the last year, as a birder, I go out looking for birds. I don't watch them. So
Gotcha.
I'll go out to see what birds have arrived on Guam, and I go to 38 different spots on a regular basis. Depending on what I find on those spots determines how quickly I go through. So I have two routes. I have the eastern route and then the southern route. And when I take that loop in the south, I start from Petey, of course, and work my way around and come back home. And then if I take the eastern, then I start in Petey and go around and come back through Manila and Jalambago. But it's really, there's no way to blow through that loop in one day. I am often stuck at one of the sites along the way, and then I will go back the next time and continue. And
Well, certainly that's not time wasted.
No, it's not. But I mean, there are days that are unproductive, and I don't look at it in the sense that I'm only going out to look for birds that have not been sighted before. So for me, as a birder, when I take pictures of birds, I'm interested in the detail of a bird. So I'll spend time photographing the collared dove, which used to be called the Philippine turtle dove, you know, I mean, and that's another thing about birding is that the names change because the bird god names, the bird gods change these names. And so you have to be constantly on top of it. One day I'm calling it the turtle dove. Next time I'm calling it a collared dove. And so it's a very progressive science in its own way, but it's estimated that 50,000 Americans are bird watchers. That's an incredible number of people.
Yeah, there is a phenomenal community, well, like in this space, and it's not just a generational thing, and it's not just you have to, you know, let's say cut your teeth over a certain number of decades to do this. And all are welcome, I guess is the point, right?
Well, yeah, and like Olympia said, different people do it in different degrees and for different reasons. For me, I started being a birder as a child, and I think I've shared that with you, but to be a photographer, a bird photographer, is a totally different element for me. I developed into being a bird photographer, and the reason I did it is because that poster that's behind Olympia is not the poster that caught me. It's a poster that Doug Pratt did for the Department of Agriculture. And when I saw that poster, I said, wait a minute, who's this guy? Who did these pictures? And I asked Tino Uggan at the time when.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Olympia. She's got that. Oh,
and there
tremendous.
are two posters. One is the
There's
birds. Four. Yeah. Okay. But what I'm saying is the one that caught me was the endemic birds. And so I asked to contact Doug Pratt, and he has become my mentor. Doug has become my mentor with birds, and I supply him the photographs that he uses for his new update of his book. I don't know if you can see this. You can't see it. But,
Hold it in front of your face.
That's this one, sir.
No.
Yeah, we got that. We got that picture. We'll put it up for you. Yeah.
Okay.
And Dr. Pratt, of course, a good friend of this show and everything like that. Like, very accomplished person.
I provide him with photos, the detail photos. Now, what fascinates me about the birds are their behavior, and I'm just amazed at the way they've been created. The plumage is what attracts me, and the eyes. I'm an eye person. When I talk to you, I'm looking at you. I am not looking over here and talking to you. And so
I've been on the receiving end a couple of those lectures, I must say, and they are very, very effective.
Yeah, so when I'm out with the birds, my camera lens, my eye is focused on their eye, and I'm watching what they're doing, and I can almost, after a few minutes, I can almost interpret exactly how they're going to move. And that's a birder. I can tell you, I know exactly when they're going to stretch because I watch them so intently that I know that movement. I know that nuance when they're going to do, whether they're going to look at something to eat or they're going to stretch their wings. It's so, it just obsesses me.
And what the two maybe characteristics that stand out to me about that are probably a lot of experience and a lot of patience.
Oh, you need patience, even if you're bird watching.
Yeah. Okay, so Olympia, I love that point that R made because, as a very accomplished, photographer, a photojournalist as she's been for, her distinguished career and everything, do you find traditional people who are into photography taking up this as like a little bit of maybe a side hobby and everything like that? Because there are some distinct challenges when it comes to shooting birds because, some people shoot food, some people shoot, people, some people shoot landscapes and everything. Birds are completely their own thing.
I think nature photography is one of the most difficult
Thank you.
because you just have to be there and capture the moment, and you have no idea what moment's going to happen, you know, before your eyes. And so I really take my hat off, if I was wearing one, to nature photographers, birds especially, because they can fly away. You know, but nature photographers all over the world, because they bring us to places we can't go. So thank you, Arlene, for bringing people to bird nests, you know, watching baby birds and moms coming to feed them and dads coming to feed them. I mean, it's amazing. Birds are amazing, and they don't go to the store. And that's another reason why this migratory bird celebration is so important, because it highlights how we need to keep our oceans, our beaches clean for our avian visitors, because they need a clean place to come and eat.
Yeah. Now, you know, there's something important that Olympia said that I find very interesting. Although Guam does not have many endemic birds, and many of our endemic birds have become extinct in the wild, and they're not in captivity. We have two, the sea hick that's in captivity, but not in the wild, extinct in the wild. We have the koko that is in a breeding program, and then they release them into the wild. But even in places like Saipan, the Northern Marianas, the children are not there for. I mean, she said, you know, you said that you feel sorry for our children here because they don't get to see these birds. But honestly, in Saipan, it is not a big deal either, and neither is it in Tanina. It's almost like it's there, and they're not even aware that it's there. You know what I mean? Now,
Hopefully this effort will change that.
Hopefully awareness will. The unfortunate part is that there's ethics involved in birding that are not involved, and they are involved in bird watching, but bird watchers can stand back at a distance. A birder has to get close. And so these birds in their natural environment, we have to be cautious not to create pressure on them, not to make them, not to disturb them, and not to flush them, which means you have to determine just exactly how close you can get their comfort zone. And if you see that they're starting to twitch, back off. Now, some people are not conscious of that. Because they want to get close, right? They want to see it. There's so much involved in it that's why, like in Saipan, Tenia, and Luta, you could see the birds. They're up on the line. You could see them. They're up on the wire, rather. And so they're always there. They're in the trees. You can hear them. So they're around you so much that you don't feel this compulsion to get close to them. When you're dealing with the migrants, that especially down at Jeff's, the people that go to Jeff's to eat or to be on the beach, they're actually not cognizant of the birds that are there. I've watched this many times. They want to go out into the ocean. They want to see what's on the shoreline, and the birds will flush. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that, because you don't want to deter or tell people, oh no, you can't go out on the beach. You don't ever want to go to that extent. And I'm not a tree hugger, but I don't like deforesting trees. You know, I mean, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Sure. So we have to find a balance, and nature is there for our enjoyment. Everything was created for our enjoyment. So we do have a responsibility, like Olympia said, to make sure that we're protecting them. So the environment, but also our conduct. It's critical. Sure. Our conduct is critical to the survival. If we stress these birds out, we won't have any of them. You know, I mean, their whole purpose for being here is to eat enough fat to be able to sustain them on that return flight of the migration.
Now, if I may offer like regional perspective, our Tomasma in Glotnia is watching this interview with great interest. He's from Luta originally, and he covers CNMI events for us. Fantastic reporter. He actually says there is bird watching, especially on Rota. There's a little bit of preservation and education campaigns there, So apparently the community there, they are aware of it. According to Tomas, they do exist, but maybe this effort and this event that you find folks are doing and everything like that can join the communities and maybe have more collaborative. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, Olympia, please.
I want to say the bird sanctuary in Luta is one of my most favorite places in the world.
There you go.
Because I can sit there for hours on that cliff and just watch the birds, and they'll check you out too. If you're sitting there, they'll come down and go, "What are you doing?" and look at you.
You're
and
in their turf.
Do another pass. It's just amazing, but. It's really one of my most favorite. It's so beautiful and incredible what you get to see. And so thank you to the people of Luta for making that available for us.
And if I may, we've got some comments now I'd like to read, if I may, ladies. Elizabeth Agigi, again, she lives in Eva Beach, Hawaii, and she said, obviously the community out in Hawaii with birding and bird watching, very active. Liz says, we have a lot of finches here. I see certain birds, she writes, that come in pairs. She's also said she spotted a full yellow parrot by itself, like on its lonesome. She also says the nenny goose, which is endangered.
Yeah.
And Chamarita Ray just said, like, also, how does this factor in with those who would prey upon the birds, like the brown tree snakes and what have you? And I guess that's what Olympia was saying is, with nature, you never know what you're going to see. You may have this amazing shot of a bird just doing its own thing in its own environment and everything. All of a sudden, it's somebody's lunch. And I say all the time, from nature photography, and I love how you brought that point up, Olympia. Everybody thinks killer whales are the coolest thing in nature until they start tossing the baby seals out past over the surf, and then they're the biggest jerks in nature.
Okay, so that's where it gets back to the difference between not interfering. Okay, now. I got a video from somebody the other day. They were down at the Paseo, and a cat fledgling had fallen out of the nest, and somebody was there giving it water. And yeah, right, that's our first wildlife booklet. And I'm going to be handing some of that out at the workshop, by the way. It's a first come first serve because we published it and we're running out. But anyway. They were giving it water and wanted to feed it some food. And that's the first thing you don't do. You do not feed these wild animals. You just leave them alone. But it's our tendency as humans to want to interact with them. Pick up a bird that fell. No, don't pick up a bird that fell. And don't take it to the Department of Agriculture because they're not in the business of nurturing these things back. Leave it alone because the mother will come down and feed it. And it's a survival thing. So if it can't, there's a reason why it fell out of that nest. Now, I'll share a story. Speaking of Luta, I want to say Hafade everybody in Luta, but the AGA project in Luta, I think is one of the greatest projects that we have. The Coco here, very similarly. But with the AGA project, they had two Micronesias, the crows. One of them was pushed, maybe both of them pushed out of the nest. In one instance, it was because the mother had died and the father, could not forage for two hatchlings. So one of them had to go. Now, the one thing that I learned as a birder is that the parent, that color when you see a chick open its mouth in the nest, they open their mouth wide open, and the color is so bright and robust, and you're wondering, I was wondering, why can't I hear any sound? Well, the color of the inside of the chick's mouth indicates to the parent who is the most likely to thrive. And that, because I used to think, come on, feed the other guys. But they have a natural instinct to feed the one who has the greatest opportunity to survive. And so in the case of the AGA, one fell out, the Ceza, and the other one was the same. They were both orphans, and they were raised, and they were released into the wild. Unfortunately, they died within a day apart, and they were so close. I have some very intimate pictures of both of these AGA on the trees, just, feeding each other. They were both female, but they were just close friends. And we tend to transpose our human emotions onto these birds or wildlife in general.
Okay.
Because there is that caring, there is that association and gregarious nature of even these animals. So there's so much to learn, and I'm happy to hear that in Luta that they do encourage the children,
Absolutely.
or that there is bird watching. I know there's birders on Luta. I have fought to fly there recently because there's a bird there that I have not photographed, but I helping to take care of my mom and decided maybe I should.
Well, we'll tell you what, ladies, we got to wrap up because we're going to talk about some HR topics relative to Guam's ongoing battle with COVID right now. But I'd like to use maybe Olympia, if I may, I'd like to give you the last word and maybe use another nature analogy. We are literally just at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this. So how can people join the event, get involved and participate? Because this is so worthwhile.
Okay, all right. So it's at Jeff's Plover's Cove, which is also known as Jeff's Pirates Cove, on February 5th. So this coming Saturday. Activities will be from 8 to noon. And Arlene's photography workshop will start at 8 and go till 10. At 10 o'clock, we're going to be having the welcoming remarks from President of the university, Dr. Kreis. Then we are going to have Chamorro Legends, a gathering of stories, which was written by Terry Paris. She's going to read her Coco and Halikay legend. We're going to have a Moneybird legend story from Harley Educhal, who's here at UOG. We're going to have a premiere celebrating birds dance performance by Luna Shills. And then we're going to have bird stories of Guam before the brown tree snakes ate them. And Dr. Robert Underwood is going to be one of the Manamco who's going to be telling stories about that.
There you go.
So all they have to do is show up at 8 o'clock. If you want to see if you want to have take part in the workshop, come at 8. And then at 10 o'clock, all the people who will be there will include the Marianas Audubon Society, UOG Press will be there with their books, the Center for Island Sustainability, UOG Sea Grant, the Guam Bus. They have their beautiful bird flashcards, and you can learn tomorrow, and you can learn the names of the birds. And UOG Center for Island Sustainability, did I say that?
Yep.
And Department of Ag Forestry will be there. There will be a cuckoo bird there with Department of Ag, DAR, and the Guam Beekeepers Association will be there.
And you know what? You get to hang out in beautiful Ipan on a Saturday, and it doesn't get much better than that.
Exactly. And between 8 and noon, Jeff is going to donate 10% of the food proceeds from the food to the Marianas Audubon Society.
Well
so
done.
if you ever wanted to find out more about birds, this is your chance.
All right.
February 5th.
All right.
Jeff's Pirate Cove.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. Always a pleasure. Thank you for putting on this event, Olympia, Arlene. Thank you so much, and we wish you both good health and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And one more thing, we're also celebrating the 70th anniversary of the University of Guam and the 50th anniversary of UOG Guam's land grant status. So come down and learn about that as well.
All right, fantastic. Ladies, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Adios,
Thank
everybody.
you.
All right, that's that. 7:39, Monday, January 31st, 2022. Let's keep it in the KUAM News Link Zoom room where we have the president of the Society of Human Resource Managers, Guam chapter, attorney Mike Pangilinan, joining us now. Good morning.